Welcome to Human Potential at Work, the show where we explore social impact, inclusion, and empowerment of everyone, including persons with disabilities. Get ready to be inspired, hear success stories, and learn tips and principles for bringing out the best in everyone. Hello and welcome to the program. This is Doug Foresta. Of course, I'm here with Debra Rue. And, Debra, first of all, welcome. It's always great to be with you.
Yes, I agree. I agree. You're such a good friend.
Thank you.
Happy
Likewise.
holidays. Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
Thanks so much. Yeah. So we were talking about this idea of creative disruption. And I use the analogy of, you're playing a board game and somebody comes over and wipes all the pieces off your board, throws the board on the floor, all the pieces are, all over the place. And you added, and they throw away the directions. And then what do you do with that? Do you try to keep playing the game the way you're playing it? Try to remember where the pieces were and what the rules were, or write a new one based on your memory? And Deborah, you had shared with me, you were talking about your feelings about holidays, and you're saying like Christmas, like I'm done with I'm done with the way we've done Christmas. So give me
Yes.
a little bit. I think there's a connection there in terms of this idea of creative disruption. Say a little bit about what you were sharing with me about your thoughts and feelings about holidays.
Well, I've always loved the holidays as a little kid, and I sometimes equate it to camping. Okay, what? Um, when I was a kid, we always went camping, and I lived in Florida, and we went camping, and there was always where we would go camping. There was always a place to swim. I love water, so I loved camping because what you do, you get there. You get on your bike, you usually brought your bike if you were smart, and you just gone and you're riding your bike around, you're going swimming, you're meeting other kids. It's wonderful. You're running around. Sometimes you get really hungry, and so you hit the campsite, you grab something, stuff into your mouth, and you're gone again. I loved it. But as an adult, it's not as much fun because I've done those camping trips, and instead of getting on my bike, I'm the one that's in the campsite. I'm making the fire, I'm making the food, I'm getting the
Yeah,
tents ready. And maybe I'm yelling to my kids saying, "You got to help me," but you know, so it's like it's a much different experience for me as an adult than when I was a kid.
yeah,
The holidays feel like that to me now. It feels like it's always so rushed, and it's always there's so many obligations, and I can't keep everybody happy, and I got to do this, and you got to have this year we're going to have the perfect holiday, the perfect Christmas,
the
the
magical Christmas.
perfect Hanukkah, right?
Yeah,
The ones that I've always heard about.
yeah,
And instead you're stressed, and you're oh, I got to buy that gift, and I can't stand it. I don't want to be. I remember there was controversy because Melania Trump said, so she had made a comment to her
yeah.
friend, which I think her friend isn't really her friend, that she leaked it to the
I
press,
would
where
agree.
she said she hated the holidays. Well, she hates and I'm speaking for her. I have no idea, but I thought when I heard that, I thought, well, that's not what it is. It's just this obligation that's coming at us.
Yeah,
And no matter what we're doing, we're going to disappoint somebody. There's going to be tears. There's going to be missed connections, and I just, and I had one of those. I had one of those events, and and there were tears, and I thought, um, why do we torture ourselves? Why,
right.
why? And so then I thought, this is because I thought maybe with it being COVID-19, people would be less of that energy
Yeah,
of whatever you do, make it perfect.
yeah,
Okay. And you just screwed it up, Doug. You did that, and now it's not perfect. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like all the energy and the rush around, and it gets so
yeah.
stressful, and the consumerism. I hate it. So I said to my son, I said, I don't know where I will be next year because, unfortunately, my husband's walking a really sad walk with dementia. It's very, very intense. We're at a very intense period of it. And so I don't know. I don't know where I'm going to be, but I want to go away for the holidays next year. I want to go away and just go someplace quiet, where I don't know anybody, where I don't have to. I'll still buy the presents. I'll still, see people, but I want to take the stress. I want to completely rethink the holidays. And as just like Doug, I'm rethinking everything in my life.
Right.
As you know, a friend of mine said that she thought that Mother Earth had sent us all into timeout to think about what we've done or hadn't done.
Yeah.
That's what COVID was. And I've been doing a lot of soul searching. I know
Yeah.
you have been too, Doug. I think a lot of people have been.
Yeah.
So why is it so hard, and why do we make it so hard, and why do we buy into it that this is the way your holiday has to be?
Right.
And it's so stressful.
Yeah, and let me just say, obviously, COVID itself has been really hard.
Right.
No one who's alive had ever been through a global pandemic. We didn't understand what it was like. So it's been tremendously difficult. But then there's the added stress, and whether it's the holidays or anything else, it's the idea that our lives have been so disrupted, and every disruption, there's an opportunity in that disruption to create something new that serves us. And the Christmas thing, I think, is a great example, because Christmas is an invention. Modern Christmas is an invention. People invented it. I'm not talking about the birth of Jesus. I'm talking about
Yeah.
Christmas as it is celebrated, in America here today, is an invention from songs and movies and stories and lots of things. And that's wonderful. And if that works for you, great. But just because we always go to grandma's house on Christmas and have bouillon soup or something, well, maybe we don't do that, right? maybe we maybe we do something else. And I think there's this real opportunity to look at all of these things in our lives that feel really rigid and fixed, and ask ourselves, like, is this really serving me?
I agree. And I think also, and you and I have talked about it this before, but the consumerism, I try to, I deal with so many people globally, and sometimes you can only work from the lens that you have. And
Yeah.
so even though I have traveled to many countries all over the world, but I live in the United States, I live in Virginia. And what I found was that we have been taught to be consumers. And when we get in trouble as a country, so I'm going to just talk about this from a US lens. When we get in trouble as a country, what we're told to do as good Americans is to consume. So
Yeah.
when we got in trouble with, just for example, with the financial crisis, 2007, 8,
Right.
9, um, and our government sent us all. They sent us money that time too, which is such a blessing when your government's trying to help. But then we were told, and by Obama at the time, to go out and buy stuff, buy it, use it to stimulate the economy.
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't think that was a wrong thing to tell us, but it we have been told so much as Americans to consume, 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 consume.
Yeah.
Capitalism, be a consumer. And I think it's gotten out of control. So now you've got the COVID-19 where we had this forced go home, stay home to shelter in place. And I agree with you, Doug. I think everything has to be rethought.
Yep.
Even when we're talking about COVID 19, everybody says, well, the cool thing about COVID 19 was that we all got to go and sit and really contemplate our lives and really had a lot of time to go in. And then I think, well, I have a friend, Doug, that isn't the experience that his family had
There was not
with
a lot of
COVID.
contemplation going on. No.
Yeah, so it's like we're even, and I'll say one more thing, Doug, is that I really did used to think that I had not complete control of my life, but I thought I had some control of my life. I thought
Yeah.
I've realized I've been very delusional about the control I have. And
Yeah.
and once again, maybe my problem with the holidays, it's not the holidays, and I understand that. It is the demands that I have put upon myself because I've been told if I'm going to be a good mother, a good Christian mother, all of these
Right.
roles that I play, I'm going to give my family a perfect magical Christmas.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, but when you say you put on yourself, society, I would argue that there are messages that
I agree.
reinforce that. as people, I think that really people are going to be listening to this in 2021. I just think 2021 is the first year for many of us, maybe in our lives, maybe not, because people deal with cancer and all kinds of things, and life is uncertain, and they know that. But for many of us, it's truly the most uncertain time we've ever gone into in our lives. You know, what will happen in 2021? When will everyone get the vaccine? When will things open up the way they used to? Will
Will the
Easter look
vaccine
like
be
it?
safe?
Right. Who's going to be? Yeah, exactly. When will it be safe? There's a new mutation of the virus. Will the vaccine work against it? Who will take I mean, there's so many questions, but yet I think that there's that fundamental kind of like the Four Noble Truths by the Buddha,
Yeah,
and one of those things is just the idea that everything is impermanent, and if everything is impermanent, that means that we're not going to go back. There's that Zen saying, "You never cross the same river twice."
yeah,
I really think many of us, myself included, we have this mindset of like, when can we go back to the way it was? And the answer to that is never.
right. Well, you know what I did, Doug, and I don't even know why I did this, but December 21st is solstice.
Yeah,
And of course, there was all kind of planetary things
yeah,
happening. As this year's been wild, the eclipses, the planetary, the super moons, the new,
yeah,
the blue moons. It's just been very interesting what's been happening with our planet and the planets that are in our
sure.
solar system. And I I don't know why. I don't know who told me this. I don't know why I decided this, but somehow I decided that the worst of this, what we're walking, was going to be done on December 21st. I don't know why I thought this. And so when it wasn't, I was disappointed. And then I thought, why did
Right,
you think that, Deborah? I mean, why did you,
right.
do you think the winter solstice is just magically gonna, because I don't even know what in some, I think a lot of us are saying, what is this? And I'll give you an example, Doug, just to couch that. So I know that a lot of people have died from COVID-19 in the United
Yes,
States. What I don't know is what are the true numbers, because the numbers were counted in a lot of different ways for a lot of different reasons as this was happening. And so when people will say to me, well, I don't really believe in COVID anyway. And I'll say, well, so do you think it's not true that, all the people that have died in the United States? Well, no, I think some people have. But I mean, even something like this do we even have COVID-19, or is that a hoax? COVID-19, it's being spread through 5G. Really? How is it being
right,
spread through
right, right.
5G? Really? So, and I actually went down that rat hole to see
Yeah,
what, because it didn't make sense to
yeah,
me. Oh, okay, all right. That's how you say. Okay, fine. And then I climbed out of the rat hole, feeling really afraid and vulnerable. It's
yeah.
like, really? There's reptilians in the White House? What?
I suppose,
Okay, darn
I
it.
suppose that that's like the dark side of imagination and creativity, is that we know we can kind of create for ourselves all kinds of.
And is it true, Doug? I don't even know. Maybe it's true for somebody's reality. Is it true? So I'm
Right.
so confused about.
Yeah.
I honestly am. I'm confused about how the world should work. And I was thinking of something, Doug, when we were talking about the holidays.
Sure.
Just this little thought came into my mind, and it was like, because I don't like the way I am doing the holidays. I'm not saying that I don't love, you
Yeah.
know, the birth of Jesus. That I love, blah blah blah, all
Right.
of that stuff. But
That's not what we're talking about, right?
yeah, I just don't like what we've attached to it.
Yeah.
And we've made it impossible. We've made it impossible. And so how do I how do I take back the joy of the holiday? And
Yeah.
what does that even mean to me, Doug? What is the joy for a holiday?
Right.
I think something really joyful is, reading a book to my daughter,
Right.
sitting around the fire, having,
Right.
a cup of, whatever your cheer you want it to be. But um, I think that I just want to admit to myself that a lot of the stress that I put on myself because I have bought into, you better have a perfect holiday.
Yeah, I was telling my wife, my wife was also, um, oh my God, Christmas Eve, I stayed up like 3 hours cleaning after everybody went to bed just to try to make things, and I must have cleaned like 7 times in the next 12 hours because, I have a 2 and a 3-year-old. So they're just, you pick up something, they just throw it down. You pick it up, they throw it down, right? It's like,
They throw
but,
it down and they crush it.
right.
But
But your house
okay.
has to look a certain way. And so, because
It's
that's what you
Christmas.
have to do.
Right. Not
And
to mention you're Jewish and you
Right, and not to mention
celebrated
that I'm
Hanukkah,
Jewish,
but
but we also, we do celebrate Christmas too for the girls. But
yes,
um, my wife was really putting a lot of pressure on herself, and I was telling her, I said you should really look at the different ways in which Christmas has been celebrated over the years. There
that's
was
what
a
I
time
like
when
to do.
people would get drunk and go to church, and that was how you celebrated Christmas. And Christmas was a raucous, in fact, the Puritans outlawed Christmas. They did not like it. They thought it was the Puritans, when they came to this country,
Oh, I
they
didn't
were
know
very
that.
against Christmas. Christmas was because it was a time when you would drink and be wild, and it was just very unpuritanical, very, it just wasn't seemly. So so
I did not know
um
that. That's so interesting.
imagine back then, right? Like, that was Christmas. Christmas was, let's get drunk, ripping drunk, and we'll run to church and be loud, and then at some point Christmas became magic for children, right?
Right.
It was like magical for children. But the world changes, right? Our lives change, and I just think that, one of the things that's been so hard about COVID is that it has disrupted all of our rituals. But on the other hand,
Yes.
it gives us an opportunity to examine them and to see, like, what do I want to keep, what maybe do I want to shift and change.
Yeah, it's sort of like Black Friday, which
Yes.
was
Yeah.
after the day after Christmas. Now, I never understood that. And
Yeah.
but I have a sister-in-law who I adore. I adore her. I think she's just wonderful. And she loves it. So every
Right.
before,
Right.
she would go out, get up real early, and I have other friends that did it, but I hated it because the thought of having to fight people for a thing,
Yeah, me too. There's
I,
nothing I need that
I
badly.
yeah, it just did not speak to me. It did not speak to me, but
Yeah.
I think you're right. I loved how you said it, the rituals,
Yeah.
because you're right. What are the rituals? And then I think also, Doug, of speaking of rituals, you have Mother's Day, for
Yeah.
example, or Father's Day.
Yeah.
And on Mother's Day, my son, who's a good son, he's engaged to a woman, so he has to decide, is he going to be a good son and he's going to come see his mom? Or is his fiance going to be a good daughter and she's going to go out of town and see her mother?
Oh
And
yeah.
by the way, does that mean does she loves her mother more than my son loves his mother?
Yeah.
So I see my son being put in these positions, and I remember
Yeah.
being put in those positions as a young woman,
Sure.
and no matter what you did, you were wrong and you were bad because somebody you're going to
Right.
disappoint. And so I'm rethinking all of that, and I have said to my son, "It's one day. If you want to honor me, it
Right.
doesn't have to be on the day that the calendar says.
Right.
If you want to spend a day, tell me that you love me, that you think
Right.
I'm a decent mom. Let's you and I pick a day,
Right.
but let's not. It feels sometimes like the holidays are used to hurt each other, Doug,
Yeah.
and to just
Well,
tell you that you're not good enough because."
sure. Yeah. I
I'm
mean,
sorry. I sound so cynical, and
no, no, not at all. I mean, I think the thing is, we can keep, it's like, how do we preserve the essence of these things
yeah.
versus,
What's the goal? What's the
right.
goal?
I mean,
What are
if
we
the
trying
goal
to
is
do
just
here?
to solidify them, and then they become so hardened that we lose
Right.
the essence of them. Like, what is the essence of Christmas? What is the essence of Mother's Day? What is the essence of, anything, birthdays? I mean, anything, right? I mean,
Right.
so, the essence of all, I think, of any holiday should be about joy, and it should be about celebration, and it should be a time to rest and to reflect. And if it becomes so crazy that we lose that because we're so caught up in whatever, Aunt Tilda did, and oh my God, I mean,
Oh
how
my
many
God, I
times have
know.
you seen, like, well, we're going to use my Aunt Tilda's recipe for fruitcake, not
Oh my God. Oh my God. I know. So
I
true.
think marriages
I'll tell you.
mar- Yeah, go ahead.
Oh my God. Well, I'll tell you two
Yeah,
silly stories.
yeah.
A real good friend of mine, she's a great photographer, and she took pictures, and um she printed them out, and she put them in frames. And that's sort of unusual these days. People don't do that as much. And
No, they don't do
she
that.
did some lovely ones for us, and I just really loved them. Well, she did it for another family, and she took a picture. And at the time when they were taking this picture, the little baby that was with them was fussing. And so she wound up getting a cute picture of the baby not fussing. But when she gave it to the parents looked at the picture and they said, "She's scowling." And I was like, "She's not scowling. She looks
Your video is
very."
frozen.
Oh, good.
Oh,
Anyway, I see
it
you're
might have
back.
been me. Okay,
Okay.
sorry. If you could just pick up with, so she used to make, the last thing I really heard you say was she made, she would actually take pictures and put them in frames.
Okay, cool. All right. So my girlfriend took photographs, and she framed them, which is just unusual and very nice. So she gave me some. They were beautiful. I thought they were a very thoughtful gift. But she did it of another family too, and they have a little baby, and they were taking the pictures, and the baby was fussing. But she wound up getting a cute picture when the baby wasn't, right as the baby wasn't fussing. And she gave it to the family, and the parents looked, and they're like, "She's scowling." And
Yeah,
she doesn't look like she's scowling, but it's like, see beyond, that. It's just, don't look for
yeah,
things to be upset about. But it just feels like we set ourselves up
yeah,
accidentally. And I know everybody's stressed. I know I'm horribly stressed, Doug.
yeah.
But I do really think that it is a time. And it's funny because we always do this around Happy New Year. What are your resolutions? What are you going to do?
Yeah,
All of that stuff.
yeah,
Well, it just feels like we all now are going to, we all should be really assessing, how do we love the people around us? How do we find joy in the people around us? How do we really um, walk these sometimes very traumatic paths, especially when we have to acknowledge that collectively we've been traumatized. Collectively, how many families were trying to have a happy magical Christmas, and they lost somebody to COVID, or
right.
somebody is sick right now?
Absolutely.
And all the political confusion. And I don't know, I'm rethinking everything in my life, Doug. Everything. I'm rethinking everything to think, what do I want to do, and how do I want to contribute to the world and to the people I love, and how do I take away some of this fake stuff that I've accidentally put in front of myself, like, you have to have this type of Christmas.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
do we do this?
Right.
How do
Or
we?
you have to be this kind of person, or you have
Right.
to, say this when somebody says that. And, again, I think of, what's his name? The Wisdom of Insecurity, Alan Watts.
Oh,
He talked about how it's like we want to put water in an envelope. We want to contain life, but the essence of life is that it is creative, that it doesn't do what we, you know, life. Well, as they said in Jurassic Park, life finds a way. The
yes.
essence of life, is that it is unruly, and that it cannot be contained. And we should have rituals, and we should have containers, but we need to remember that we can adapt those as necessary, rather than try to put water in an envelope, and try to contain life into what we want it to be, because it's only a recipe for misery and failure when we do that.
I agree. And I think something else that we should talk about just for just a few minutes on
Yeah,
this episode is, what are we doing? Because I can sit around and I can complain about
sure.
what's going on, but what are you doing? What am I doing to try to live a better life? So I don't want to just complain about what's going wrong, because I can complain a lot. I can tell you what's going wrong in my life, and there's some real trauma in my life.
Yeah,
But is there a way to, um, for me, I grew up in a family with trauma, and I know, I'm not the only one that
sure. No,
was
I would
traumatized as a
count
child.
myself. Yeah,
Yeah, and many others. And my parents did absolutely the best job they could, and I appreciate, what they did. But it's I think we have to reevaluate everything now. So one thing that I'm doing is I'm being so careful about what I let into my brain. So for example, I don't watch the news, and I don't watch the comedy shows anymore. I'm a big fan of Stephen Colbert and The
Yeah,
Daily Show, and I don't watch them anymore. I was listening to people talk about this topics from different lenses,
sure.
and I found that it wasn't helping my mental health. So what I'm choosing to do now is I'm choosing to watch things, videos on social media. I'm very, very, very careful about what I let into my brain. And I find myself praying more, meditating more. I'm doing yoga. I always wanted to do yoga, and I did it a little bit, but I'm doing it every single day now. And I'm just really, really practicing self care. I'm being careful with what I eat. I'm being really careful, Doug, about with water consumption. And, so I don't know if there are things you're doing, but it is actually helping me a bit and encouraging the loved ones around me to also try some of these things.
Well, that's great. Yeah, I mean, well, one thing I'm doing is this show is for people that are listening to this as the Doug Foresta show, is bringing that back to really support creative people, because I'm having so many conversations with people about I really believe that creativity the is ultimately what will see us through the other side to a better future. We have to be creative for all the reasons we discussed. That we have to adapt, and we have to support people's creativity. So I think that's one thing that I'm doing. Another thing I've been doing is I realized that my nervous system was just so completely shot, from having a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old through COVID. I mean, it's just been,
And getting
it's
COVID
been,
yourself.
and having COVID myself, and yeah, all that stuff. So, one of the things I started doing about a couple weeks ago is taking valerian root, and that's been really helpful. It's at least for me. I'm not saying everybody should take it, but for me, it's been very helpful for my nervous system to kind of bring it down a bit, so I can be a
Yeah.
little calmer and think more about what I want to do, and where I want to go. And then I think the other thing I'm really trying to do is to live life on life's terms, as they would say in 12-step programs, meaning I'm really not trying to make any big um major announcements for 2021. I want to do things that support creative people. I want to do things that support people in living their best lives. I want to make a contribution in the world, but I'm open to, hopefully, I'm trying to stay open to riding it is a lot of, use a lot of water analogies, but if you're on the rapids and you're like, and the rapids are going, this way, and you're like, well, I'm going to go this way. No, you're not. You're going to go with the rapids. you know, so,
And you
you
can
know,
fight it for as long
right.
as you'd
So
like,
so
or
going
you
with
can.
the current in 21 rather than fighting life, I think, is one of the things that I'm working on doing.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point too. Just and get cutting ourselves and those around us a big break. 'Cause
Yes. Having some
everybody
grace.
is traumatized,
Yeah.
everybody is freaked out, everybody's overwhelmed,
Yeah.
and just being kinder to people, just being kinder, just a little kinder.
I agree. I agree with you. We really need to have, that grace for ourselves.
Yes,
Um, yeah,
and others.
absolutely. I
I
agree with you,
agree.
Deborah. Well,
We
this is
got
awesome.
this.
I look forward to continuing the conversation in 2021. And I just want to, I said, I know people will be listening to this at the beginning of the year, but we want to wish you all, a wonderful, safe, healthy year ahead. And Deborah, I'm so glad to continue to be on this journey with you. No matter what in 2021, one thing I'm certain of is that, I'll be
Yes.
beside you.
I know, as we have been for many years. And I will just say to my audience, human potential at work audience, please do subscribe to Doug Foresta's show. That's how we
Thank you.
first met. And the show he had it for years and then took a hiatus and it's come back. And it's a really powerful show. And also check out old episodes because you can find them on iTunes too. And
Thank
I
you
was on
so
there
much.
too. I was one
You
of
are.
your
Oh,
first
yes, you
guests.
are, Deborah.
I
And
love the
when I
Doug
when I
Foresta
tell
show.
people, I said, If you like the show, tell 3 friends. If you don't like it, keep it to yourself.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you,
Happy
Deborah. Here's
holidays, Doug.